What if the most distinctively American foods on your table tonight weren't dreamed up in the culinary epicenters of New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles? What if the snacks lining your pantry shelves, the ice cream cartons freezing in your kitchen, and the canned comfort foods you've known since childhood were actually engineered by widows, working-class immigrants, and corporate renegades in a single state most coastal travelers simply fly over? There is a forensic reality to the American grocery store. The modern snack aisle was quietly blueprinted in Ohio. This is part 2 of our deep tissue audit into the state that disguised massive industrial food engineering as simple Midwestern comfort. At the Origin Archive, we don't just trace ingredients, we dissect how regional history shapes global taste. If you haven't seen our first investigation, the link is waiting for you below. But right now, hit subscribe, clear your mind, and look closely at your plate. What you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you view the map of American innovation. This is the Ohio Blueprint. 1. The upscale blue-collar gamble. Arby's, we begin this audit not in a high-tech test kitchen, but in a fading steel town during the height of the mid-century industrial boom. You know Arby's today as the fast food giant that explicitly rejects the hamburger, defined instead by its towering slow-roasted beef sandwiches and neon cowboy hats. The structural blueprint of this empire was drawn in 1964 in Boardman, Ohio, just outside the smoking mills of Youngstown. Two brothers, Forrest and Leroy Raffle, were running a restaurant equipment business when they noticed a distinct vulnerability in the fast food landscape. McDonald's was aggressively conquering America by selling 15-cent hamburgers at lightning speed. The Raffle brothers decided to execute a high-risk counter-strategy. They wanted to sell sliced roast beef, and they wanted to position it as an upscale luxury for the working class. When they opened their tiny 10-seat restaurant, they charged 69 cents for a single sandwich, nearly 5 times the price of a standard burger. They called the venture Arby's, a phonetic play on their initials R and B for the Raffle brothers. In a blue-collar region defined by intense physical labor, the gamble succeeded because it offered premium, slow-cooked sustenance disguised as fast convenience. It was pure capitalistic ambition served on a toasted sesame bun. 2. The shrunk-down rarebit. Cheez-Its are the uncontested monarch of the savory cracker category, perfectly square, mathematically salted, and baked to a precise shade of neon orange. Yet the forensic lineage of this snack reveals its origins not as a junk food, but as a 19th century medicinal health experiment. The story traces back to 1847 in Dayton, Ohio, where a homeopath named Dr. William Wolfe began baking hard, unbuttered dietary crackers designed specifically for patients suffering from severe gastrointestinal distress. Decades later, this medicinal baking methodology became the mechanical foundation for the Green and Green Baking Company. In May of 1921, the company engineered and trademarked a tiny, flaky, fermented wheat square infused with real cheddar cheese. They named it the Cheez-It. The hidden historical context is what stops most food historians cold. Green and Green didn't market this as a children's snack. They explicitly advertised it as a baked rarebit, a direct technological reduction of Welsh rarebit, the traditional British elite dinner of melted seasoned cheese poured over toasted bread. They took an old-world comfort meal, engineered it into a 1-inch shelf-stable square, and changed American snacking forever. 3. The industrial slice of luxury, the Klondike bar. The marketing jingle is permanently burned into the American subconscious. What would you do for a Klondike bar? The stickless, silver foil-wrapped square of vanilla ice cream encased in a brittle chocolate shell feels like a modern corporate invention. In reality, it is a relic of Swiss dairy preservation engineered in Mansfield, Ohio. The Isserly family immigrated to Ohio in 1833, bringing centuries of Swiss cheese-making expertise to the state's fertile valleys. By 1922, they had scaled their operations into the Isserly Dairy Company. That winter, Looking for a way to maintain dairy sales during the freezing Ohio months, they debuted a radical new product named after the historic Yukon Gold Rush, the Klondike Bar. The forensic detail that has been entirely lost to time is the human labor required to build this icon. The early bars couldn't be manufactured by automated machinery. Instead, a highly skilled, largely female factory crew, known as the Klondike Girls, hand-dipped every single frozen block of ice cream into melted chocolate before wrapping them individually in specialized silver foil. Sold for a single dime, it allowed Great Depression-era, working-class families to purchase a literal slice of structural luxury. 4. The soundtrack of childhood, the Good Humor Bar. If the concept of an American summer afternoon had a specific acoustic frequency, it would be the distant rhythmic jingling of an ice cream truck traveling down a suburban street. That entire cultural ritual was structurally engineered in Youngstown, Ohio. In 1920, an ambitious candy manufacturer named Harry Burt succeeded in creating a chemically stable chocolate coating that could perfectly bond to the exterior of a frozen block of ice cream. His daughter, Ruth, conducted the initial taste test. She confirmed the flavor was extraordinary, but noted it was far too messy for a consumer to eat while walking. Her brother offered an elegant mechanical solution. Insert the identical wooden sticks the family already used to manufacture their candy lollipops directly into the freezing ice cream core. The Good Humor Bar was born, but Bert's true genius was the logistics. He purchased 12 pristine white delivery trucks, outfitted them with custom refrigeration units, and hung the heavy iron bells from his son's old bobsled onto the front bumpers. He placed his drivers in immaculate military-style uniforms. Harry Burt didn't merely invent a chocolate-covered dairy bar. He engineered the entire rolling theater of modern American childhood. 5. The wartime chef, Chef Boyardee. It is a staple found in virtually every domestic pantry since the mid-20th century. The red-labeled can featuring the smiling, white-hatted visage of Chef Boyardee. To most modern consumers, the character looks like a fictional corporate mascot invented by an advertising agency. But the chef was completely real, and his actual history is deeply intertwined with Ohio's immigrant economy. Ettore Boiardi was a master culinary immigrant from Piacenza, Italy. His talent was so undeniable that by the age of 16, he was helping cater the wedding of President Woodrow Wilson. At age 26, he moved to Cleveland, Ohio, to open his flagship Italian restaurant, Il Giardino d'Italia. His signature spaghetti sauce was so intensely popular that patrons routinely begged him for bulk portions to take home. Boiardi responded by cleaning out empty glass milk bottles and filling them with sauce at the back of his kitchen. To scale his business for the mass American market, he intentionally altered the spelling of his name on the label to Boiardi so that non-Italian store clerks could easily pronounce it. During the dark years of the Great Depression, his factory in Milton, Pennsylvania, initially supplied by Ohio Agricultural Networks, fed millions of citizens cheap, high-protein meals. During World War II, his production lines ran 24 hours a day to supply sea rations to Allied troops, earning him a prestigious Gold Star from the United States War Department. Ohio took an ancient European culinary tradition, industrialized it, and integrated it permanently into the American identity. 6. The toddler's linguistic code, dum-dums. Walk into any pediatrician's office, financial institution drive-thru, or Halloween stock across the United States, and you will find the exact same universal artifact, the dum-dum lollipop. It is a deceptively simple piece of confectionery architecture, a small spherical ball of hard candy wrapped in paper with a white paper stick. It was invented in Bellevue, Ohio in 1924 by the Akron Candy Company. The forensic genius of the product lies entirely within its name. The company's sales manager, a man named I.C. Barr, chose the phrase dum-dum because he applied early psychological principles to marketing. He realized that dum-dum was a linguistic combination that almost any toddler could easily articulate before learning to fully speak. It was engineered to be the very first candy a child could request from a parent by name. In 1953, the Spangler Candy Company acquired the brand and consolidated its massive production lines in Bryan, Ohio. Today, that single facility manufactures over 12 million lollipops every single day. This includes their famous mystery flavor, which isn't a deliberate flavor recipe at all, but rather the continuous mechanical transition on the assembly line when one batch of candy ends and a completely different flavor run begins. 7. The Ghost Orchard, Smuckers. The corporate slogan has been broadcast across television sets for decades. With a name like Smuckers, it has to be good. But the multi-billion-dollar jam and jelly empire, headquartered on Strawberry Lane in Orrville, Ohio, did not begin in a corporate boardroom. Oh, it began with a local farmer, an apple press, and an American ghost. In 1897, Jerome Monroe Smucker established a small cider mill in Orrville. The raw apples he utilized to feed his heavy mechanical presses were harvested from local orchards that had been planted decades earlier by a wandering, eccentric nurseryman named John Chapman, the historical figure mythologized as Johnny Appleseed. Smucker processed Chapman's historic fruit into cider, which he then slow-boiled into dense, rich apple butter. He and his son, Willard, loaded the crocks onto the back of a horse-drawn wagon and sold them to families across the region. As a forensic guarantee of absolute structural integrity, Jerome personally hand-signed the paper seal of every single crock before it left his site. Smuckers was not a corporate entity that achieved accidental market dominance. It was an Ohio agriculturalist who built a multi-generational legacy directly upon the literal harvest of an American folk legend. 8. The stubborn physics of the French pot. Graeter's virtually all commercial premium ice cream in the modern world is manufactured via continuous freezer industrial loops that pump air into the dairy stream while moving thousands of gallons an hour. Graeter's ice cream completely rejects this methodology. Every single pint they produce is handcrafted using a 2.5-gallon French pot, a rotating copper drum submerged inside a specialized bath of ice and rock salt. This is the exact mechanical technique that Louis Charles Graeter utilized on the cobblestone streets of Cincinnati in 1870. The pivotal moment in the brand's history occurred in 1919, when Louis was tragically killed in a streetcar accident. His widow, Regina Graeter, was left completely alone with 2 teenage sons and a hyper-localized dairy business. As the Industrial Revolution swept through the American food sector, Regina stubbornly refused every single offer from corporate engineers to modernize or automate her kitchen. She kept the French pots turning, 2 gallons at a time. The signature, massive chocolate chunks that define the brand today are the direct physical result of this stubborn adherence to physics. Liquid gourmet chocolate is poured directly onto the frozen interior wall of the spinning copper drum, creating a delicate shell that is then shattered by hand with a specialized paddle blade. It isn't just dessert, it is a widow's refusal to compromise, frozen into a dense, airless scoop of dairy history. 9. The geography of survival. Goetta. To the vast majority of the global population, the word Goetta means absolutely nothing. But inside the geographic boundaries of Cincinnati, it is a culinary religion. Goetta is a dense, savory breakfast loaf constructed from ground pork, beef, steel-cut oats, wild onions, and imported spices. It is slow-simmered for hours, poured into rectangular loaf pans to solidify, then sliced thin and fried to an intense, crispy crust. The forensic roots of this dish are tied directly to the immigration patterns of the 1840s, when thousands of working-class families fleeing economic hardship in Hanover and Westphalia poured into Cincinnati's over-the-Rhine district. They brought with them a traditional German peasant dish known as Grützwurst, a grain sausage explicitly engineered to stretch expensive, meager scraps of meat across an entire winter to feed a large family. Upon arriving in Ohio, these families adapted the recipe to the local agricultural reality, swapping out European grains for local American steel-cut oats and renaming the hybrid creation Goetta. Goetta exists purely because human beings refuse to allow a single calorie of nutritional waste. A survival loaf born from poverty has transformed over 2 centuries into a regional culinary delicacy, celebrated by hundreds of thousands annually. It is historical resilience served hot off the griddle. 10. The scientific scent carrier, Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. We conclude this audit by proving that Ohio's role as an engine of food innovation is not merely an artifact of the past. It is an ongoing process of contemporary engineering. Walk into any ultra-high-end artisanal grocery store in America today, and you will find shelves occupied by distinctive pints bearing a minimalist label, Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. While many consumers automatically assume the brand emerged from the trendy neighborhoods of Brooklyn or Los Angeles, its actual birthplace was Columbus, Ohio in 2002. It was founded inside the historic North Market by a 22-year-old art student named Jenny Britton Bauer. The precise breakthrough that launched the empire occurred while Jenny was deeply studying the chemical science of perfumery and scent dispersion. She experimented by introducing a single drop of highly concentrated cayenne pepper essential oil into a traditional batch of chocolate ice cream. Upon consumption, she realized a profound scientific truth. Because of its unique fat structure, ice cream is the absolute perfect molecular carrier for complex scents and retronasal flavors. She exited Ohio State University 2 weeks later to pursue this chemical realization full-time. In the early days, she routinely bartered ice cream pints for basic meals because she lacked the personal capital to buy food. Today, Jenny's operates scoop shops across multiple states, having completely rewritten the structural definition of what mass-market American artisanal ice cream can be. 10 distinct culinary traditions. Over a century of industrial and domestic evolution. One flyover state that quietly engineered the flavor profile of the entire American domestic landscape, while no one was paying attention. Ohio is not a passive footnote in the history of industrial food production. It is the hidden laboratory where necessity, immigration, and raw ambition collided to build the modern pantry. The next time you pull a box from your cabinet or grab a spoon from your freezer, look past the glossy branding and read the physical geography of where that idea was born. If this forensic investigation into the Ohio blueprint shifted your understanding of American food history, hit that like button. It helps the Origin Archive continue to expose the technical truths hidden behind the history of our tables. Subscribe today and tell me in the comments, which of these 10 iconic American food innovations surprised you the most? Stay curious.